Because we can forget, not to forget Alaska. Anyway, from Alaska, this is not intentional. I'm not forgetting you. But forget the fact that Alaska and Hawaii weren't asked. Suppose they actually said this correctly. 6 in 10 of the contiguous Americans sampled said. They can't even really say 60% because they're uncertain in that result, aren't they? So how do they make up for the uncertainty? Keep reading. You may have to stand up again and look at the bottom. You may have to stand up and look at the bottom again. Keep the last line. If you can't read, I'll read it to you, yes? For results based on the total sample of national adults, we're still ignoring Alaska and Hawaii, unfortunately, one can say with 95% confidence, that's a 244 term, we'll get back to that, the margin of error is plus or minus 4 percentage points.
So it's 50-50.
Boom! Boom! Which means we can't say 60%. We can say it might be as low as 56. Subtract 4 from 60, or it might be as high as 64. It's somewhere in that range with 95% confidence. So we've been given E, Taryn. That E is it's been calculated by them.
I like that.
Good. That's totally fine. Good. Now again, it's magic as to why it's that, but just trust. Let's make sure we know how to use it right now. We'll work on the calculation as we go. So any of these numbers that you see up here have to have the 4% added and subtracted to them to be fully, I shouldn't say fully, to be more precise, more accurate. 60 by itself is completely wrong, because if they go and ask 1,021 different people, are they going to get the exact same results? No! But they're going to get close to that result, assuming they did it properly the first time. So 60% is not 60, it's 56 through 64%. 37% is not 37, it might be as low as 33 or as high as 41. Let's finish this one up and save this one for after the break. Can we agree with their overriding claim, though? That is, more Americans favor than oppose offshore drilling. Can we agree with that, assuming we're ignoring Alaska and Hawaii? Faith?
Yeah, because you're still above 50%.
Yes! Say it one more time.
Because you're still above 50%, even giving that 4% leeway.
That's a very cool way of looking at it. I was going to compare this number to that number, but Faith said, no. Subtract 4% from 60 to make it as small as possible. 56%. That's still above 50%, which would be the halfway point, which means more than half are in favor. I was going to compare it to the 37, which is the same thing with more work. Even if you go that as high as possible, it's still below this as low as possible. So I agree with the overriding claim that they meant to say, which is more Americans favor than oppose offshore drilling. Is that fair? You guys buy that? Buy that logic? Statistically, I mean, it's not a parameter. It's a statistic with a margin of error, so there's uncertainty built into it. But as much as we can do with the uncertainty, their claim is correct.
Assuming that they had the right collection of data and they did.
I'm giving them a hall pass on the data. Gallup has learned the hard way a number of times historically how not to collect data. They do a pretty good job. Did you catch the random digit dialing? That bit them in the butt in 2012, actually, with the presidential forecast, because they the cell phones were disproportionately underrepresented in the random digit dialing. They were getting more landlines than cell phones, which wouldn't make that big of a difference, except for there's a very specific demographic that uses landlines versus cell phones. And you're getting a disproportionate look at that when you're only getting a more landline population. It's interesting. It's interesting how some of the stuff you're like, I didn't think about that. That's what you're in this class for, so you start thinking about it.
Has anybody ever gotten that call?
My phone's usually not on, so.
That call.
I try to ignore it most of the time. I recognize the number, I ignore it.
There's also something like going on online sampling.
Oh, let's get into that in 244. Yeah, we need to talk. That's a